In our politics lead, a blunt message to the U.S. Supreme Court from a prominent and well-respected conservative former federal judge, J. Michael Ludick, who warned the justices in a letter, quote, "To whatever extent the court does not subject itself to the highest possible professional and ethical standards, it also depreciates its power to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, which is the high charge that the American people have bestowed upon the Supreme Court," unquote. That letter, submitted as part of a Senate hearing today on the Supreme Court ethics, or lack thereof, and coming amid a cascade of reports on possible ethical violations from some of the justices, and those are just the ones we know about. Joining us now, Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. He's a Judiciary Subcommittee Chairman and co-led today's hearing. Senator Whitehouse, always good to see you. So I have to say, I know there's a lot of criticism of Justice Thomas, some criticism of Justice Roberts, but all 9 justices, all 9 of them seem to be on the same page that they do not need increased oversight, including the 3 liberal justices. If you can't even get them to accuse on them to align with you on the issue, on the idea of oversight, what's the next step?
Well, first of all, let's not be so sure about that, because Justice Kagan has said publicly that the court has tried to put a ethics code for itself together in the past, and it hasn't succeeded yet. So I think it's a bit much to say that none of the 9 justices want it. They just haven't sorted it out yet. The second point is that I think the other judges are really getting quite fed up with the Supreme Court justices' behavior, because they do have to live under ethics codes and ethics processes that they know would not permit the kind of behavior that the Supreme Court is both engaged in and trying to justify. So there's also going to be pressure from within the rest of the federal judiciary to clean up this mess. And if push comes to shove, we've got legislation.
I was reading an article about Abe Fortas being ousted from the court, resigning from the court, when he was under fire for his ethics, his questionable behavior ethically. And they talked about the Justice Earl Warren wanting an ethics, some ethics requirements. That was in 1969. That was the year I was born. Senator Lindsey Graham slammed this renewed focus from Democrats on Supreme Court ethics today. He called it an attempt to attack the court's legitimacy as the court becomes more conservative. We've seen that argument a lot from Senate Republicans, including Senator Mike Lee. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'll go with Senator Graham's earlier statements about how important it is for the court to make financial disclosures just the way senators and congressmen do, just the way senior executive officials do, frankly, better, and just the way all the other federal judges do. I think that there's room for bipartisan improvement here. It really is not appropriate for the highest court in the land to be the one with the lowest ethics standards and the worst ethics process.
I want to ask you about your colleague on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Dianne Feinstein from California. She's had an extended absence from the Senate as she recovers from shingles. This comes after years of questions about her faculties. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from New York, called for Feinstein to retire. In a Blue Sky social media post or skeet, she wrote, quote, "Her refusal to either retire or show up is causing great harm to the judiciary, precisely where reproduction rights are getting stripped. That failure means now in this precious window, Democrats can only pass Republican-approved nominees," unquote. How do you respond? I mean, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, what she's saying there is, I mean, empirically factual. You're not able to do what you would be doing if you had the Democrat on the committee that you need.
The best response is for Senator Feinstein to get better and come back. Because whether she's out of the committee because she has stepped down from the committee temporarily, or whether she's out of the committee because she's left the committee, or whether she's off the committee because she's left the Senate, the same process has to be gone through to replace her on the committee. So the Republican blockade that is presently preventing us from filling her seat on a temporary basis could just as easily prevent us from filling her seat in the Judiciary Committee on a permanent basis if she were to resign. The only clear solution is for her to come back, and that's what we're very hopeful she will do.
How do you respond to a Democrat watching this who might say, you sound more concerned about the feelings and the hurt feelings of a senator than about all of the important issues and rights of 350 million Americans?
Well, first of all, I do care about Diane's feelings. I've served with her in the Senate for a long time and admire her immensely. But to the other point, remember, whether she's away for illness, whether she's away because of resignation from the committee, whether she's away because of resignation from the Senate, the predicament that Senate Democrats have is the same. It requires unanimous consent or a vote beyond 60 in order to put a new senator on that committee and fill her seat. So the problem doesn't go away whether she resigns or not. The problem only goes away when she comes back and sits in that seat and votes again.
I want to ask you about the budget standoff, obviously, because you're chairman of the Budget Committee, and you're set to hold a hearing this Thursday on the debt limit passed by the debt limit bill passed by House Republicans. Do Senate Democrats have the votes to pass their own bill?
Well, we haven't taken that up yet. I suspect that we do, but the first thing that we need to do is to make sure that it's clear where the basically MAGA proposal that Speaker McCarthy has launched will get us. It's a terrible choice that he's trying to force on the American people. Default is 1 million lost jobs. His bill is 780,000 lost jobs. Default is a recession. His bill is $160+ billion hit to the U.S. economy. Mm-hmm. We don't need to go either way. There's a sensible pathway if the real extremists over there will come back and use the regular process of government that the founding fathers set up under the Constitution to have this debate in the light of day.
Right, but they're not wrong that $32 trillion of debt is unsustainable. Would you be willing, well, let me put it this way. Would you rather the U.S. default on its debt than accept a bill that includes some spending cuts?
The U.S. cannot default on its debt. The damage will be severe and lasting, and a lot of Americans will suffer probably for decades.
All right.
This is a very serious thing.
Democratic
Senator, for the Speaker to threaten it is inappropriate.
Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, thank you so much for joining us, sir. Appreciate it as always.